here's a little tangent for you. Do you think that the glorification of serial killers in cinema is a bit weird? Because let's face it, the Zodiac killer, not a very nice guy. Serial killers in general, not very nice people. And yet we make films about them, we obsess about them in all forms of media, not just films. What do you reckon about that? Bit weird, right?
It is weird.
Yeah. I mean, I nearly wrote my dissertation on that very question.
Yeah.
But I do think it's weird. Like, I think that Zodiac and films like Zodiac is one thing where it's told from the perspective of the sort of investigators or the victims, because it kind of puts the serial killers on a pedestal in that we're willing to make a film out of them, but it also, like, Zodiac doesn't hold back in showing what a horrible person this is and being like, oh no, he was diabolical. I think the weirder ones are when you get stuff like My Friend Dahmer and the Zac Efron Ted Bundy one, the one with a really long title, where it's like the main protagonist, the person you are following, is said serial killer. And the Ted Bundy one particularly is weird because the entire film is like playing on is he innocent, and following the trial where he tries to get off for the murders, and it's like, how it seems weird that you're trying to almost make us.
No, I don't think they pushed any narrative of did he or didn't he do it in that film.
I don't think they did, but they kind of. I've heard people interpret it like that. Like I actually know people who came out of that film and was like, I'm starting to think he didn't do it, and it's like, but he did.
I was gonna say.
It's like, I think maybe it's because it's like, we watch all these movies with these villains, Hannibal Lecters and Darth Vader and stuff, but this is like that added element of, these people are real. The real life movie villains actually exist, and it's also maybe this is like strange animalist lust that we've got deep down that kind of we're interested in because it's so extreme. Some sort of like thrill ride deep down subconsciously. That it's really weird.
That's the core of it, isn't it? I mean, the fact is that
murders, it's really weird.
These people, serial killers, are at the absolute extreme of human kind of psychology, aren't they? Like their actions, they are fascinating on a level of like people want to know what makes them tick, and they do make really compelling sort of stories, books, whatever the hell it is, But, at the end of the day, it is kind of weird how there is it's almost like, especially now we're getting documentaries on Netflix about serial killers.
Like making a murder,
you get it also. Yeah, you really are kind of just invited to obsess over them and really kind of, like, it's almost just it gives them a bit, like, it puts them on a pedestal, like you said, Christian. It's like, it's just, I don't know, because I'm guilty, but I'll watch the serial killer thing, I'll watch the documentaries, I'll get really into it and everything. It's just a strange thing that is accepted in our society there.
I like I say, I do think it's weird, especially when we have these, like, where the killer is, like, put at the forefront of the narrative, and it's almost like sometimes, I haven't seen My Friend Dahmer, but I've been told that, like, Dahmer in that is, like, because it's his teenage years, he's portrayed as the sympathetic character. And it's like, but he was not only is he a serial killer, he is an actual serial killer. And it seems weird that they make a film that creates him as a sympathetic protagonist.
Yeah, that's an odd choice.
Like
quite questionable.
It's one thing turning around and making a film based on a fictional villain and being like, let's create them as a sympathetic character. It's another thing, taking a real life villain and turning them into a sympathetic character.
Yeah,
it's just a really unusual choice.
Having said that, have you watched Night Stalker on Netflix? It's really good.
Night Stalker.
I actually haven't watched Night Stalker.
It's like a mini limited series. I think there's like 4 or 5 episodes about a serial killer from the 80s or 70s. It's quite good. Normally I can't get into documentaries, but this one was really good. It felt like it was nicely paced enough to keep me interested.
Yeah, and isn't that interesting there, that, like, we're talking about like these real life events in terms of pacing, and like it's just, you know, that's the nature of like film and, you know, documentary, I suppose. But it's just odd that we pick such weird subjects and then we bring out the stuff that's going to be compelling for people and going to kind of keep people watching and stuff. Like cliffhangers for documentaries are always really strange, aren't they?
Yeah, it is weird that this is like. I mean, I remember like sort of one of the early things that I watched that sort of introduced me to this sort of looking at sort of killers and stuff is I don't know if you ever watched the series Whitechapel.
No,
I've heard of it.
Oh, it's about Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, the first series it's like 6 episodes, and it's based it's set in the year it was made, and it's based on a Jack the Ripper copycat, and they basically have to work through the Jack the Ripper case to figure out what he's going to do next and try and figure out who this new Jack the Ripper is by looking at the old case.
So it's like oh my god, what was that show? It was like 4 like middle-aged / elderly detectives that like reopened old cases and solved them.
New Tricks,
that was it.
It's all right, it's okay.
That was a great show.
New Tricks is good shit.
It's like that, but like super dark and gritty.
But is the theme song as good?
Holy shit!
I don't actually remember Whitechapel's theme song. I do remember that after the first season, which is based on Jack the Ripper, it did get more seasons, which were also quite good. Where they were still 6-episode seasons, but they were like 2-episode arcs based on copycats of other cases. So like there was 2 episodes on the Krays and 2 episodes on another like infamous killer, 2 episodes on the Yorkshire Ripper. Like it's a very good show, but I remember it's sort of sitting down and watching that and being like, oh, this is fascinating. This is really cool. But why are we making this? Like, why are we sort of giving reverence to what? Like, we're almost being like, oh, how amazing was Jack the Ripper? I mean, he never got caught, and it's like that's a bad thing.
You're almost
Still
like
out there.
because everyone loves the anti-hero, don't they? And like
Yeah.
serial killers are kind of like the original. To coin a better phrase, you know, to use a better phrase, the original anti-hero.
Jesse James and people like that are Butch Cassidy.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say there's really any heroic element to a serial killer.
It's not. No, all right, okay. No, exactly.
Something you want to tell us?
That's right. Yes, I'm a serial killer.
Ben suddenly leans back and locks his door.
No, but I think weirdly there is that kind of element to the serial killer. That's why it's sort of because they're not. It's obviously not heroic that they're killing people. Like, you know, that's their serial
For the
killers.
record.
Yeah.
But there's something in the way that we treat them and the narratives that surround them. They are almost painted as like they are in a weird way.
I think part of it is that like serial killers are something out of a film, and then when it happens in real life, it's just something a bit more interesting than your mundane everyday life. So I think that's why people get into it. I don't know if this is a poor way of phrasing it, but it's something a bit more exciting in a horrific,
that's what I said
macabre
earlier.
way. But yeah,
it's like it's some weird subconscious thrill.
Yeah,
that we seem to. It's like an animalistic. I don't know. It's very peculiar.
You don't want them to succeed, but you do want to be able to sort of see things from their perspective.
Yeah,
almost.
It's just fascinating.
Like I don't think I've ever watched anything with a serial killer in and been like, oh yeah, no, I'm rooting for him.
I don't know. Zac Efron's pretty tasty.